Hi, everyone. My name is Jordan Johnson from jojoempathic.com. I'm a psychic medium. And in today's video, I'm going to dive into, is mental illness real from a spiritual perspective? So please like, subscribe, drop a comment. I want to hear from you. I want to hear your experiences and perspective on a very deep topic, mental illness. Okay. So let's just go ahead and dive in here. Obviously, I have to acknowledge that I'm not a doctor. Um, But one thing I do want to say from a spiritual perspective, as someone that has access or ability to tap into the multidimensional brain, our multidimensional senses, I would say, does mental illness exist? It does. But I think that there is a lot of truth in that Western medicine and Western treatment isn't really helping to treat or cure mental illness. I think that Western medicine does not help people to find a lot of the time the root cause of mental illness. I think that a lot of the time, most people feel failed by the medical community in regards to seeking treatment and seeking help for their mental illness. So in this video, I'm going to give you some perspective that may help you to be able to find your own root cause of illness and see if there is the option for you to explore this route in energy medicine to treat and heal yourself. Okay. So, one of the things I find most interesting is that from a spiritual perspective, this paradigm, the third dimension, is set up and almost like the way that we've created the matrices here in this third dimension lead us to being mentally ill. I think that if we were to be honest with ourselves and really go out into the world and just start to speak to people and hear their story, we could say that just about everyone to a degree has some sort of mental illness. And whereas one person may see um, someone is depressed, the person looking back at them might say, well, you sound depressed. I think again, this whole paradigm is set up to make you exhausted, to make you tired, to make you go through ups and downs in life. And we aren't really given the tools to help cope with the ups and downs in life. And it's just often projected that if you're sad, go take pills, go get medical treatment that does not heal the brain imbalance. It more so numbs people. So we're in a war of consciousness. And what I found is that a lot of people that go seek these medications and psychiatric medications, they do feel like they're just numbed out. There's a lot of negative side effects. If we look at like elderly people in an elderly home, people that have, these people taking chronic medication have really horrific side effects like just being dazed out, drooling. And it's a war on consciousness. These are mind altering drugs that do not heal the root cause of the depression, that do not heal the root cause of the memory loss. It's a sedative. And we can see even through history medical restraint that has been pushed on people. And often people that are tapped into the multidimensional brain. So my claim here is that, a lot of these people that are being diagnosed with these severe mental health disorders, what if they're the actual normal people? They can't fit into this society that's greedy and power hungry and says, go to school, go into more school, have consumerism, go on to social media, go to church, work, sleep, drink, go to sleep, retire, and share it all. What if those that are being diagnosed with these mental health disorders cannot subscribe to that lifestyle? What happens often is they begin to feel rejected, abandoned. They often get shamed, neglected, and abused, which, from this spiritual perspective, is what actually leads to the imbalance of the brain, the imbalance of the heart and body, which may then lead to mental illness. What if, though, the ability to understand that, yes, we do have a multidimensional brain, and when we tap into it, we can learn how to have discernment there. We can learn techniques that help us to manage our abilities, manage our energy, and process the lower energies that we experience as part of this whole third dimension. I think that's where real healing comes in. And if we were to look at testimonies of people that have healed schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, depression, and by the book, sociopathy is actually a socialized condition where psychopathy is considered there's actually something imbalanced with the physical brain. So what if these people that have these disorders were given the tools to say, let's find the root of where this program began? And we have mental health specialists that begin to use medical intuition, that when working with people, they're able to trace back to childhood and begin to see the events, the traumas, the reactions that took place that led to somebody beginning to develop a mental health imbalance. And from there, working through it, processing pain, processing trauma energetically, and helping people to come back into a state of wholeness and remembrance of who they are spiritually, which is where the psychic healer within all people exists. Metaphysics kind of proving this claim that yes, we do have a multidimensional brain. And what if that's the normal person? The normal person. And those that are ignoring that truth and that are able to give their power and mind away and get on the school bus every day and eat the processed food every day and go to church every Sunday and ignore higher truth and ignore that our brain is regenerative and does not have to stay in one state. And then they're good at being told what to do. They're good at being told this is how you should think, act, be, and do. Go to college. That's the right way. Get on social media. Wear this. Do this trend. Ladies, here's a big one. Get married. Have kids. Stay married. Retire and take your meds. What if some people are actually really good at that? And then the ones that aren't are claiming that that's the mental health imbalance. That's the mentally ill person. Giving up their will, giving up their mind to a system that's there to control them. So in these days, things are very topsy-turvy. And I predict that within 50 to 100 years, this concept of mental illness will be completely transformed and transmuted higher. What I see in terms of how treatment will be medically for those that have a physical brain imbalance, I think there's going to be a shot of some sort of like vitamin, mineral, amino acid that people will take when there is what they say is a brain imbalance that helps them to the brain to heal itself back into balance. And what happens when the brain, they feel better, and then what happens with the brain after it starts to wear off and you have to get another shot. It's a really great indicator that there's something energetically going on, emotionally, thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And I believe that we'll have evolved so high in our minds that we'll be able to look at this truth and do something about it positively so that our brain doesn't go back into imbalance. It's going to take a lot of work for the collective to get to this point. But here's the truth spiritually that I see about mental illness. Let's start with depression. So for, let's say, an individual that is born into a dysfunctional family, that individual, their mother, when she was pregnant with them, may have ate a lot of processed food, may have drank water that had toxins in it, may have received viruses or bacteria that she wasn't able to treat from her mind, or never saw a medical professional and got medication to treat it. Either way. So the baby, as this person was being developed in their mother's womb, was actually feeling that through their physical body as it was being made. Now, also the mother energetically was was tuned into the system that doesn't teach people how to handle their emotions, how to control their thoughts. So she was emotionally spiraling. She was not able to heal and balance her hormones. She was not able to process grief. And the baby then picked that up. So the baby was born. There was an imbalance with nursing, being fed, which we can see directly affects psychology as an adult and child. And the father was very detached, was not very involved with helping this baby to be raised, nurtured, and loved. And the mother began to spiral into postpartum, which we've normalized. We've normalized postpartum when our bodies naturally are wired to give birth and get back into balance afterwards. And so this child now is facing physical imbalances, emotional and energetic imbalances. And in today's society, when we go get help for that, there's no one that says, let's talk about the root cause. We're given a pill that does not cure. And then this child grows up in an environment of dysfunction throughout their lives, never feels nurtured, never feels loved. At 18, they go into the real world. It gets tough and real. And they have all of these childhood experiences and adolescent experiences that have caused them an immense amount of grief and pain. And they begin to say, I have a mental illness. And they're given an antidepressant that did not acknowledge any of their story. This is the reality of what we're in. So how can we really claim that mental illness truly, truly exists? Until we have an extended period of time here on Earth where we have practitioners in the medical field that are actually treating root causes of these imbalances and helping give tools to people physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually to bring themselves back into harmony and balance. And my claim is to this person, you have every right to be depressed. It would almost be like you would almost be sociopathic to not feel depressed after what you just went through. We have no place in today's society that says it's normal to be sad for a period of time. There's nowhere in the mental health field where it's like you just went through a loss of a loved one. You should be sad. You can feel fatigued, and this could last for days, months, or years, but you'll get through it. There's no space for that. What ends up happening is here, just take the pill, and it further progresses people into a real problem, into real side effects in the physical body. What if there was just space that's like we start to teach children and adolescents and adults, let's be real, that life has ups and downs and there's going to be sad times. There's going to be scary times. There's going to be times where you're angry. There's going to be times where you feel like things are out of control. There's going to be times where you have anxiety. But isn't that part of life? Where I get frustrated is that Yeah, it is. But we're pushed into these identities of a diagnosis instead of actually given the tools that we need to process pain, to process negative things that we are going to go through in life. Because I've met many people, and including myself, that have been depressed, that have had anxiety, and that have healed it, and that have brought myself, and many people have brought themselves back into harmony and balance. Now, it takes work. And I'll also claim it can take time. Not to say that there can't be an instant manifestation of healing, but processing things takes time. Processing emotions, traumas can take time. Rewiring the brain. Because let's say we went through this trauma, it was shocking, it was painful. My fight or flight, my nervous system was just going for an extended period of time. When I'm finally able to release that from the spine, the nervous system, the trauma, I feel better and more energized. Now I've got to become more stable because the past year, from all of that trauma, I'm no longer stable. I've got to find my motivation back because from that trauma, I lost all motivation. I've got to reconnect with myself because from the trauma and the illness, I lost connection with myself. So I'm going to give myself 3 months. Can I stick to a routine? Can I reground this new brain state for not just 1 month? Now I'm stable. Let's try 2 months. Oh, I go backwards. It's okay. Let's try month 3. Okay, I'm stable again. Maybe the 4th month, I'm not as stable anymore. But maybe by month 6, we've finally gotten into the swing of more stability of the mind and routines, and you're feeling well. Then the next month, you can ground it again. And the next month, it's a lot easier. Now you're just in this new identity. And that's how we heal. I think so many people right now, we're seeking answers because the pills aren't working for us. I'll give you my story. When I was going through a depression, there was a time where I was awakening and it felt like a spiritual psychosis. Nobody told me you have a multidimensional brain. You have multidimensional senses and you're tapped into it. Pull your energy back, ground yourself, and shield yourself. You need to clear yourself. You need to be more intentional. You need to cut cords. You need to process this. No one told me that. So when I saw a doctor, she just wrote me a pill. She didn't say, she wasn't tapped into medical intuition. She could say you're about to see that your loved one's about to pass away. That is sad. You're about to go no contact with people that you love. That's sad too. Oh, and by the way, it looks like, 'cause I'm clairvoyant, you never even were able to be really in your full expression. And that's devastating because authenticity keeps us in a balance. It can't help us to stay in a balance. So let's work on that. Let's alchemize that and see if you feel better. That never happened to me, but that's the way I thought, and that's what healed me. Now, had I had a medical professional to help me to see in this context, I think I would have healed a lot quicker. But instead, I took medication, antidepressants, and but my body blew up. I gained a lot of weight. I was still crying all the time. And after like 3 to 6 months, I said, I think I'm going to need a little bit more of this. And that's where we get trapped. And I feel for so many people that maybe didn't study biology or psychology like myself, anatomy and physiology, to understand like the brain is regenerative. The nervous system holds trauma and stress, which manifests into disease. And that's where you work. That's your root. That's what you work through. I had enough knowledge and intelligence to know that, and willpower to go down that path of actually processing my problems, my own pain. Some people don't have the tools like education, knowledge, or will to be able to help themselves in that moment. And so after 6 months with all of this medication, their brain is really in a problem now, even further exacerbated the problem. And they stay on the pills for another 6 months, then it's a year and a half, then it's 2 years. And they actually end up becoming very, very, feeling very trapped and disempowered, that they have to go and get a pill every month, that they have to medicate themselves every month. That whole act of being medicated like that can form an illness of that of itself, because the person feels trapped, knowing that that's not really helping them. It just takes the edge off, keeps them from yelling out, maybe crying out, kind of like dazed. That's what I see. And we've normalized it. It's the normal thing to do. And so if you're watching this video and this is really speaking to you, let me know your thoughts on this. Let's talk about, I talked about depression. I'm going to wrap it up with just one last thing. This is a depressing time. Look what's going on in the news. That's sad. There's a lot of pain circulating, confusion, uncertainty. That can be sad. It's scary. And if our tools and techniques that are instilled in us through a broken education system, broken medical system, what do you expect but rampant mental illness? We're not nourishing ourselves with food that heals us. I had someone tell me after their dog got sick, I started to make, I started to make homemade food for my dog, and the dog started to get better. It's a family member. And she said, I am so shocked that once I gave her this food, the dog started to feel better. This is common. This is someone in the clinical mental health field. Couldn't believe that food was helping healing. This is a massive truth today. And there's agendas to make it very confusing about that food can help to bring us into balance and harmony and help us to feel better. I see it all over social media where people get on the keto diet and they feel so much better. Did my doctor say, how's your diet? Yeah, but she never said this processed food could be also causing the hormonal imbalance, besides for the chronic fight or flight. There was none of that. There's no push to grow your own food, to get into herbs, plant medicine. There's no push for that. Mainly because there's no profit for these healers in the field, in the medical Western medicine field. There's no profit for them when people actually begin to heal themselves, cure themselves through processing trauma, finding a sense of connection with someone else, maybe for the first time in their lives, feeling heard, seen, received, finding their soul's purpose and authenticity in combination with maybe drinking less pop and having more herbal tea and eating less boxed macaroni and cheese and having more of a fresh green salad with sprouts and dulse and Bragg's as your dressing with some olive oil and some good sea salt. It's unfortunate. The medical system is set up to keep people suffering. And I think we're in an awakening to where there's such a beautiful shift with the power going back into people's hands that a lot of these psychologists and psychiatrists are now catching on. And they're turning into more spiritual psychologists and psychiatrists. Do you notice? Because they're directly treating people and they say it's not working. We also see this with a big mass movement of medical doctors, as well as nurses, who are tired of medicating people that furthers the problem. Now, I don't want to ignore that medicine is life-saving and it's helpful. I don't want to ignore that. I'm grateful for medicine. It's helped Western medicine. It's helped me throughout my life. And I acknowledge that some people, they need to go that route with no judgment. But what I'm saying is if there's a bigger collective issue here, is that we're not taught the truth. And we become these identities of our past trauma. A big one is PTSD. That's kind of where I'll switch next. I saw a beautiful testimony from a woman that escaped North Korea. This is a different culture than American depression and pain. Abusive parents. A lot of us in America, we have the, baby boomer parents who are they're disconnected. They said to go to college and do this and you'll have a great job and it's failing. It's keeping people in debt and trapped and disempowered and working jobs they just don't want to do. And they were shamed if they broke against that. They were shamed if they said, I don't want to follow this religion. So that's the majority of Americans' problems, and poverty is a big one too, abuse. But if we shift to another culture like North Korea, to where it's in America shifting this way, I'm sorry, to where there's military on the street, modern America is becoming this. To where this testimony of this woman, she was witnessing as if it was an everyday thing on the street by soldiers. Mother stepping in and taking the abuse so that the daughter doesn't have to. There's no internet access. There's no access to the social media. Living a life where you are literally imprisoned. Chronic state of survival with no means of help or a way to escape. This woman escaped to America and she healed herself. She processed her trauma with a lot of, let's say, medical help, psychology. But one of the things that she said, she was so surprised in America how people like threw around this term PTSD. They just threw it around. She was like, I feel so much hope now. Once the environment was changed, she became a millionaire, from nothing, from brutal upcoming in a dictator's world. And she did not let her past define who she is today. And she was like, Americans, they all have that PTSD and they just aren't able to get through it. And I think that's a testament that diagnosis can help people to feel better, to have relief, and to feel like, okay, this makes sense now. But maybe if we change the perspective that it could be temporary and fixable and healable, I think we'd have more success as a collective. That we don't hold on to this, oh, I've got PTSD, that's why I'm this way. Well, if the PTSD is still ringing a bell, this is telling you that there's a past trauma that you're not over yet. Not to say this might take 5, 10, 15, 30 years to heal, but you can get through it. And time does help. Life experiences does help you to process things. Shifting out of a state of fear into feeling safety is massive for healing, for manifesting even. Anything, not even just manifesting, healing. A lot of people, we don't feel safe. This leads us to feeling depressed and to hold on to pain. Another big one, bipolar. From a spiritual perspective, this tends to be someone who's deeply fragmented. The consciousness is deeply fragmented. This society will fragment your mind. The culture will fragment your mind. And let's say the psychologist does not do this type of parts work with this individual and they always stay pulled. There's no meds that are going to fix that. We have to actually help people to become into the state of wholeness, or they will always be pulled in different directions. And often the multidimensional mind does see multiple perspectives, but they don't have awareness that they're not mentally ill. And that you're supposed to, yes, it's good to have multi perspectives, but integrate and find your voice of truth, find your higher mind, your soul's voice, to be able to make a decision from this skill. What if we're told your bipolar is actually a skill? What if? And people become empowered to heal it. Work with psychologists that help them to integrate these fragmented parts of their soul, their consciousness. And there's healing. I know through my own personal walk, there's been times when I was depressed, I was like, I can't make my mind up. I feel this, I feel that. Well, it's like, this feels bipolar. Then I said, time out. Once I grew and learned that the soul has light and darkness to it, it's not like it's not a monopole energy that we are. It's a bipole that we are. Duality is supposed to exist here. We need tools on how to manage that truth. And once I was able to do that and realize my own fragmentation, I found a sense of wholeness, and that pull stopped. Now, I was not diagnosed with bipolar, but I have enough knowledge and awareness that, like, this feels bipolar. I can't be centered at that time. So I feel me in my personal experience, I chose to have these experiences of trauma and pain so that I could learn the fragmentation of the mind, the consciousness, the soul, so I could find how to put these puzzle pieces back together for myself and go out and help others. And what's interesting in today's society with this beautiful YouTube and world and social media is we find many, many other stories where this has happened to them as well. Healing through parts work, through, if you ever have met or saw someone or a testimony of someone that's gone through somatic work of releasing trauma from the nervous system and spine, they sometimes have tics. They'll say outbursts like mom when they're healing, dad, or something. Don't do that. As their body is processing and releasing the energy stored in the nervous system, the trauma, it comes out as a tic. We want to diagnose it and treat that. No. What if we listen to that? That's our key. There's mother wounds. There's father wounds. There's fear. That's the consciousness trying to guide you into healing and saying, hello, this is what's fragmented in me. Heal me, help me. Let this be your story. Let this be your testimony of healing. And people that go through somatic therapy tend to have massive success in getting off medication and feeling a sense of wholeness again and energy being restored and depression clearing. People switching jobs often leads to depression clearing. So we have to be able to kind of see what's going on and provide solutions. Let's talk about schizophrenia. When many mediums claim that they can see the spirits that people are claiming that they're seeing with schizophrenia. So are they schizophrenic? Because the medium, you are seeing the same thing. They just don't have the tools to say, I'm not going to let this control me, or I'm going to block this out because it just exists in the fourth dimension. There is none of that in today's society. And the multidimensional mind, that person that's a very heightened medium that can see so clearly the truth, a higher truth, is deemed mentally ill. And those that can't see from the multidimensional powerful mind are deemed as normal. So a lot of people that have these diagnoses as children never feel normal in today's society. But my claim is today, what if they're the ones that are actually tapped in to the higher truth, the body's capability of being able to see these perspectives? An argument is, well, you shouldn't. It's too difficult, too dark to be able to see the higher truth. That's your truth. And it's a lower consciousness truth. It's a passivity. It's an ignoring. That doesn't work for everyone, but that's what's been normalized and that's what's been praised. You're a good person if you can do that. Ignore. And so the multidimensional mind, it's like over my dead body. I can't just submit to the system I don't agree to. I can't just submit to this system too to fit in. And they are deemed as mentally ill. If you hop into the third dimension, and aka if you're born here on Earth, you're going to battle sadness. You're going to battle depression. You're going to battle times where it's like, I don't know what to do. I feel pulled in different directions. You're going to go through things where it's like, oh my God, did I just see something? Am I like, is this delusional? You're going to question that. That's part of this existence. That's part of this existence. And most of us are not born with privilege to have really functional families that are not only emotionally functional, but spiritually functional, financially functional, and loving. Most of us don't have that, which is the root cause of illness. So many people they never felt accepted as a child. They never felt connected as a child or throughout their whole lives. So many of us feel alone, abandoned, rejected, abused, neglected, oppressed, marginalized. These are the root causes of illness. So let's move forward with some solutions. Understanding the multidimensional mind, I believe, will help you to heal yourself. Allowing yourself to be authentic and say, I have, let's say, an awareness and the ability that I go higher in dimensions. I'm going to learn how to manage this. I'm going to learn how to look at my triggers, realize that I'm being triggered, because a lot of people don't have awareness that they're being triggered or know they have a power to do something about it. Because through life, they never were given these tools to the point of where they're just completely out of control. And you begin to learn those tools to process trauma. You begin to heal with a healing practitioner that helps you to feel heard and received. You begin to let go. Here's a big one. You begin to forgive. You begin to learn to forgive. You begin to learn to follow your passions. You begin to learn how to manage, your pain, your anxiety. You begin to disconnect from the things that are pulling on your energy field, which does affect the mind. You have awareness that you are an energetic being. This is how we heal ourselves. But I'll say this, if you're in an environment that doesn't think like you in this way, even though people love you, they will always forever try to keep you in that box. Or say, no, 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 that's not true. Don't follow your intuition. No, 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 take pills. Me? I hurt you? I love you. How could you say that? So I think a lot of times we don't feel that we can even get away from this environment for a period of healing. I remember when I was going through, when I first went no contact with my family and I struggled, I would try to go back in and, had family members say, well, you should be calling this person, you should be calling this person, da 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 da. women telling me this, older women than me. Instead of saying, I acknowledge that you see that there's a discord, a stepping over of healthy boundaries, and you're taking time to take yourself back and check yourself, process your trauma and how you respond to things. No one ever said that to me. Take your time with regulating your nervous system. And come back when you're feeling better. And I respect you for doing that instead of just staying in the turmoil and keeping it going. It's what we call generational curses, and that's the path most people take. They take that path of just staying involved and not doing the inner work. Because here's the truth. It's our family often that makes people mentally ill. And the thing I'm talking about right now is kind of demonized because it points fingers back to family, people closest to us that have caused the pain, that have caused the fragmentation, that have fed us the food that made us sick, that have blocked the authenticity, blocked the higher truth that we want to share. But here's the truth. You can't change your family members. You can only change your mind. So it is absolutely healthy sometimes to go no contact, take a separation from the environment that made you sick, because you cannot heal in the same environment that made you sick. And once you do, a lot of people tend to feel a lot better. Gives you that space to breathe and to see without somebody telling you how to think or what to do. You get your power back. You start to be guided to a therapist that helps you to process the trauma. You start to be guided to an energy healer that actually helps you to physically heal, spiritually, and emotionally heal your body. You start to feel better. And in that process, you realize the job sucks that you're doing. You want to do this, then you create your business. Now you're feeling motivated again. Now you're feeling empowered again. Maybe 5 years later, you're finally able to start fasting, finally get a grip of your eating problems. You're finally able to put down the alcohol, the wine every night. And you begin to feel even more better. You become more healed. You start to educate yourself on the multidimensional mind and metaphysics. And you start to heal yourself even more. Guess what I'm claiming is that spirituality is what will heal mental illness. Fundamentally, higher truths is what heals mental illness. So I'm going to make another video on this. This is where I'll leave off today. If you like this information, if it resonates or speaks to you, or if you have questions, please drop a comment. I'd love to hear from you. But is mental illness real? I do think it is. But I think that we are failing the people to continue this narrative that we just need to stay on medication or to accept a diagnosis that's not potentially forever. When there is more to why people feel negative emotions, thoughts, feelings, leading to actions. And I haven't even got into the negative side of the spiritual realm. We'll save that for another time. I want to add one last thing. If you want to book a reading with me, you can at jojoempathic.com. Thank you.